Clemson versus Notre Dame men's basketball team. Another kind of close loss for the Clemson Tigers team. They lost 61-57 to Notre Dame. Biggest thing that I saw was that Amir Sims, the rock of the team, the leader of the team, come to find out he's not on the court. And then when I look it up on Twitter, he's saying that he's got the flu and doesn't know how long it's going to take for him to return. We hope that he has a speedy recovery because the Tigers need him bad.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, Morgan, we got a guy in here commenting saying that I'm echoing. So if you can, I don't know from the techie end if you can fix that at all. But yeah, it was it was an interesting game. Obviously, you see Amir Sims out and you think, oh yeah, right. We have no chance, right? I mean, he's our best player. He's our most consistent guy. You kind of, he's your team leader, plain and simple. Tevin Mack, again, I mentioned this when we talked with Terrence Oglesby a couple weeks ago that, I think this team goes as Tevin Mack goes. And he did have a decent scoring night. He had 16 points, but he did not have a good shooting night. His percentage was not good. He was like 1 of 7 from 3, and then he hit one at the end in garbage time when, there was 2 seconds left or something like that. So it was kind of a rough night for him. Look, Alex Hemingway did have a good game. I think it's pretty obvious we need to see some more of him. He had a great scoring night. He looked good shooting the ball, really smooth. He squared himself to the basket. It was really good. I thought Hunter Tyson was going to have a decent game. He came out and he shot his first 3. He made it. He looked good. He squares himself to the basket so well. He looks good. He has a good shooting motion. But again, he had another bad night. That was the only shot he made for the game. It was just kind of a rough game from three-point line, which has kind of been the same old story this whole year. We were 26.5% from three-point land. That's not getting the job done, especially with how many we shoot. And not having Amir Sims, that means, there's a good chance we're going to be shooting even more from the three-point line than normal. And they just weren't falling. That is not a recipe for success with Clemson. They did, however, have a good night from the free throw line. I think they went 8 of 9 from free throws. So that's a welcome change. And then I got to be honest, it was pretty good to see the fact that they were able to stay with Notre Dame. Notre Dame's not a bad team, and we hung in there without our best player. That's a pretty good showing. It is kind of disappointing in the end. We once again, and I don't know why this happens to Clemson, but it seems to happen to us almost every week, that we turn some guy that nobody's really ever heard of into a superstar for a game. It happens almost every single week. Rex Pfluger had 18 points when he averages just over 5 a game. And it just always seems to happen. I'm not really sure what it was. He was kind of having some fun with the Clemson fans, talking some junk out there, smiling a lot at everybody, and he had a great game. What can you say? But I'll tell you this, I wanted to ask your opinion on this. I tried to look up some stats today and could not find it. I need somebody, I need a Tim Beret helping me out with this kind of thing. But it looks to me like Clemson gets called for a traveling violation more than any team that I have ever seen. And not just any Clemson team I've ever seen, any team, period, I've ever seen. It seems like we're getting 3 to 4, maybe 5 of these almost every single game. And I'm just not exactly sure what the deal is there. I think John Newman usually gets a couple of games. Kayvon Moore, when he does play, he seems to always get one. It just seems like an epidemic, and I'm not really sure if I'm the only one noticing this, if I'm just kind of making too much out of it, or what's going on there. But it's an odd thing to get called for, I think, as much as we do.
I'm looking for if they even have a stat for personal fouls per game. Yes, they do. So where is Clemson? Clemson is 28th in the nation in personal fouls per game with 15.1 personal fouls per game. That's pretty high up there. I'm trying to see if there's any big time teams. You got Michigan 26, Virginia 6th, Oklahoma, Notre Dame is actually the higher you get up, the better it's looking like. So Notre Dame is only 12.3 personal fouls per game. So Clemson's actually, if you look at it that way, so it's ranked from least all the way down, least being the best. I mean, you're looking at Clemson's actually 28th in the nation at 15.1. So there are a ton of teams behind them that are a lot worse. So maybe it's just kind of perception as a fan. Maybe, I don't know. That's overall fouls. That's not that's personal fouls and not traveling.
I was about to say that's not traveling at all. But thank you for the stat.
I mean, I'm trying. I mean, is there even a stat for turnover? I guess turnover. I guess turnover would be it.
Yeah, you can find turnovers for sure. I know you can, but I don't know if.
But turnovers
out into traveling violations. Turnover can be a lot of things.
unforced turnovers, maybe if there's some sort of, so there's turnovers forced and turnover margin, turnovers per game.
Yeah, and that could be. I mean, even a turnover could be a travel. It could be a double dribble. It could be a throw out of bounds. It can be all kind of stuff. So I mean, a shot clock violation. So there's all kind of turnovers. You'd have to break it out specifically into traveling violations.
So turnovers per game, 86th in the nation. So that's not very good. So that might be where we're looking at. But there's not an unforced turnovers per game. That would be probably better. So yeah, not fouls. Doesn't fall in that category. It falls in turnover category. But there's really not one of those things. But chat's saying that one of the guys in chat saying that he personally knows Tevin Mack's family and used to play in Nevada. It's a good people. Yeah, Tevin Mack's a good guy, but he has this problem of trying to shoot out of a slump, and so he gets to the point where he goes 2 for 8 from the 3-point range, from the 3-point line, and you can't shoot that many 3-pointers and consistently miss. Because you're just hurting your team overall. Clyde Trapp, same thing, 1 for 5. John Newman, 0 for 4. Mack also from field goal percentage was 6 of 16. I mean, he's just constantly shooting to try to get out of the slump there. Yeah. And I wish he wouldn't do that. I mean, he ended up with 16 points. But I mean, my goodness, how many shots he had to take to get 16 points at the end of the day. And then you had Alex Hemingway, who you said was a bright spot, really a bright spot for me too. 4 for 7 from 3-point range. If you take him out, I mean, they're 26% from 3-point range. You take him out, I mean, they're even worse. Yeah, so it's just one of those things where both teams really weren't shooting that well from 3-point range. Notre Dame was 10 of 28, but ended up having a lot better of a field goal percentage, 42% from field goal, 35% from 3 points. So they're not taking as many shots, but making more, and that's the case there too. Free throws weren't a problem. Both teams only missed one, so you can't blame them there. For me, I mean, whenever I look at turnovers, I'm looking at, I thought you were going to say Alamir Dawes, because it seems like he always throwing the ball out of bounds or getting it picked off on an inbound pass. Right. So I thought that's where you were going. I wasn't expecting John Newman. I really hadn't seen or at least noticed John Newman committing a ton of turnovers.
Yeah, it's not all John Newman with the traveling violations, like I was saying. It's not just him. It's the whole team. I think I've noticed him getting several of them this year, anyways. And look, when you were talking about Tevin Mack trying to shoot himself out of a slump, it's never a good thing. But look at it this way: who would you rather have trying to shoot themselves out of a slump than Tevin Mack? I mean, when he gets hot, he's one of our best, and he may be our best when he's hot, but I mean, who else is going to shoot out of it? For sure. We don't have anybody with high percentages at all. And, you don't have anybody to go to down low, especially not without Amir Sims. So it's one of those things where it's not a typical thing you like to see from a shooter try to shoot themselves out of a slump. But at the same time, what are the other options, especially in a case when you're without Amir Sims?
I guess. I mean, it just seems like more often than not, the games that they end up, losing are ones where he's just way off, and he doesn't seem to recover. So a lot of the games I've seen, he's bad from the start, and he just continues to be bad throughout the game. I mean, maybe it's the case. Maybe on the games he's good, he does somehow rebound, and he just keeps going. He's a shooter. He likes to shoot it and throw up some buckets. And I mean, he is the best player on the team other than Sims, in my opinion, too. So, and then when you have Trey Jamison on the court, I mean, Jimison's always frustrated me because he's such a huge guy. He's 7 foot tall, but he's so young too. He's only a sophomore compared to Mooney, who's a senior. Mooney's for Notre Dame is only 6'9", but just dominate him on defensive rebounds. 11 defensive rebounds, 11 total rebounds, whereas Jimison only had 3 defensive rebounds and 7 total rebounds. So, and Jimison only had 4 points, whereas Mooney had 16. I'd really like to see Jimison show up and start developing a little sky hook or something, or back to the basket type move. He has the size. I mean, he's nothing but muscle too. Dude is just super buff, but just really raw in his talent on the basketball court for sure. But again, that's the Clemson basketball team, and a lot of people are starting to talk again. Well, they told Mickey this morning, well, we were gonna give him a ride. We're gonna let him pass, beating all the Tobacco Road teams, but now we're back on the Brad Brownell should be fired train. I mean, let's face it, Brownell's not going to get fired. We know that. This is a team that's going to have to make it through. This is a team probably going to have Brad Brownell as the coach next year, so not really worried about that either. But what are your thoughts? I mean, a lot of the fans are kind of torn. You hear one fan saying, get rid of him, burn the house down, start all over. And then you have another fan like, I love Brad Brownell. He's a player's coach. Everybody loves him. He just got to get the right tools. But then it's 10 years.
Yeah. He's had a lot of time, no doubt about it, obviously. But I think one thing you have to take into account, and I hope Marty's listening to this because obviously he's going to love the fact that anybody comes to the defense of Brad Brownell. But you got to understand the fact that they haven't had the facilities very long. I mean, they were some of the bottom facilities in the ACC. When you're trying to compete with the Dukes and the North Carolinas of the world, and you don't even have facilities, it's almost an impossible task. Especially the fact that I know everybody likes to think the best about their program, but I'm pretty confident Brad Brownell's doing things the right way, especially on the recruiting trail. And I mean, that's just going to make it 10 times harder, and he's finally got his facilities. He's trying to do things the right way and get players the right way. And obviously we got a big commit from PJ Hall here, who's about to be coming in. And he's a great player. I think he's going to do a lot and can really almost help change this program. I hope anyways. And I mean, I think you got a lot to look forward to, but who knows? Some of these freshman point guards, they got to grow up. They got to grow up. And they're going to have to grow up fast, in time for next year if we're going to be able to take advantage of this, this talent coming in and have a, more veteran group of Amir Sims and those kind of guys. And maybe, Kayvon Moore, maybe he's more of a factor next year. I'd like to see a little more out of him. He's a really tall guy that can drive the lane, and that's a pretty awesome thing to see, his athleticism. So I'd like to see him be able to be out on the court a little more. But, look, I'm not one of the guys that wants to get on here and wants to tell you that a coach needs to go. It's not a fun thing to do. I don't like to talk bad about players, but it is fair to critique players. And obviously he hasn't lived up to quite the expectations that we expect here at Clemson. Even though Clemson isn't a basketball school, it's not unfair to want to win here. It's not out of the realm of possibility to win here. We've seen it done, obviously, with how the football program was mediocre. And obviously, we're on top of the college football world right now. So why not basketball?
Yeah, I agree 110% for sure. Marty's over here saying, hey, he wants another 10 years of Brad Brownell.
Yeah.
And if you believe that, I got some. Button. Yeah, so Marty is saying that he hears your garbage and he doesn't believe it. The Tiger team is 330th in the country in three-point percentage and 75th in three-point attempts. So he is still calling it for the coaching. But Marty says, you finally convinced me, lifetime contract for Brad Brownell.